Bila imun tubuh prima, badan tetap sehat. Tapi kalau terlalu lelah, imun tubuh dapat menurun. Stres, imun turun lagi. Nutrisi tidak terjaga, turun lagi. Bantu jaga imun tubuh tetap prima dengan ramuan alami, akar manis, jahe emprit, daun jambu mete, meniran, dan sambiloto.
Herbamuno Plus. Minum Herbamuno Plus. Resep rahasia ampu jamu BRA Muryati Sudibyo. Herbamuno Plus. Bantu jaga imun tubuh tetap prima. Dari Mustika Ratu.
Sekarang, buka tabungan cukup dengan selfie. Rekening langsung jadi dan bisa dipakai transaksi. Mudah tarik tunai tanpa kartu. Semakin happy, karena bisa bayar tagihan-tagihan rutin. Bayar zaman sekarang, cukup scan kris. Untuk mama tersayang, kirim surprise pakai di kado. Ada kartunya lagi.
Cukup satu aplikasi, download mobile banking BNI. Gak pakai nanti.
Bila imun tubuh prima, badan tetap sehat. Tapi kalau terlalu lelah, imun tubuh dapat menurun. Stres, imun turun lagi. Nutrisi tidak terjaga, turun lagi. Bantu jaga imun tubuh tetap prima dengan ramuan alami, akar manis, jahe emprit, daun jambu mete, meniran, dan sambiloto.
Herbamuno Plus. Minum Herbamuno Plus. Resep rahasia ampu jamu BRA Muryati Sudibyo. Herbamuno Plus. Bantu jaga imun tubuh tetap prima. Dari Mustika Ratu.
Selamat pagi pemirsa, selamat
Good
bergabung.
morning and welcome to Investor Daily Summit 2021 virtual conference, the biggest investment forum in Indonesia. This is the last day of our virtual conference, which had been organized in the past 2 days, the 13th and 14th of July, and this is our third day. Our topics for today are equally interesting as the ones on the previous sessions. This event is organized by Berita Satu Media Holdings with Herbamuno, BNI, Lintas Arta, and PT PP Persero Tbk. On this occasion, let me introduce myself, Aditya Laksmana Yuda, your moderator for today. Before we begin our session, I would like to invite you to stand for the national anthem Indonesia Raya.
Kami persilakan duduk kembali.
Please be seated.
Pemirsa, sesuai jadwal sebelumnya,
Ladies and gentlemen, in our previous rundown, we scheduled a special remarks by the Minister of Investment and Head of Investment Coordinating Board, Mr. Bahlil Lahadalia, but we apologize because he is currently on a visit to the United States, so he could not join us this morning. So allow us to look at the 20 years journey of Investor Daily. Investor Daily Summit 2021 is organized to commemorate the anniversary of Investor Daily. I would like to invite Bapak Anthony, Chief Operating Officer of Berita Satu Media Holdings, the umbrella organization of Investor Daily. Good morning, Mr. Anthony. Good morning, Mr. Adit. I hope you're doing well. Can you hear me? Yes, loud and clear. Good morning, Mr. Anthony. And then I would also like to invite Primus Dorimulu, Editor-in-Chief of Investor Daily. Good morning, Mr. Primus. Good morning, everyone. And lastly, I would also like to invite Hari Gunarto, Deputy Editor-in-Chief of Investor Daily. Good morning, Mr. Hari Gunarto. Good morning, Mr. Adit, and good morning, participants. I hope everyone is doing well. Thank you for taking the time this morning to talk with me, to fill the time for the session with Minister Sandiaga Uno to talk about tourism. As I have already mentioned, we are going to look into the journey of Investor Daily in the past 20 years. I would like to start the discussion with asking you with the stories behind Investor Daily from you, these great journalists that had ushered in Investor Daily, and how you're going to bring this media to the future, especially Pak Hari Gunarto, the chief that is responsible for cooking up all the offerings that are presented at the Investor Daily. So tell us your experience and what are the secret behind the success of Investor Daily in the past 20 years. Thank you, Adit. In following the journey of Investor Daily in the past 20 years, I think we have good human resources as that spearheaded our operations. We applies very good journalism standards in terms of content, in terms of language. We have very reliable journalists. We try to maintain our standards of journalism. We also have very strong solidarity in the newsroom and good synergy with other stakeholders, especially with sales, the sales department. We also try to focus on actual content that is aligned with the readers' interest in investment, banking, and industry. And I believe that those topics are needed by the readers. And under Pak Primus, we have a very good, solid team. And so the secret of the success is human resources. Yes, the people behind the gun is very important. Next, I would like to talk to Pak Primus Dorimulu, one of the founders of Investor Daily. Could you tell us the initial steps taken by Investor Daily, what it was like in the beginning, what made you choose economy as the central or the topic of Investor Daily? And it has been proven that it's the key to the survival of Investor Daily in the past 20 years. When we founded Investor Daily, we do it with the spirit. We did it with the spirit of boosting Indonesian stock exchange and bring it to the same level as international stock exchange. When we founded Investor Daily, we have a clear positioning that Investor Daily should become the primary reference for market players, those who are in the stock exchange, who are playing in the stock exchange. We try to inspire our readers. Our vision from the start is to make Investor Daily the primary reading material of the emittents, of those who are running the securities companies. And I think he's breaking up. Because investment portfolio is part of investment activities. So Investor Daily give a big portion to direct investment section and to the financing section, fiscal, monetary, industry, and services. Our mission from the start is to make Investor Daily to be able to introduce investment to the public, to Indonesian public, to shift from savings community to investing community. We know that millennials are now entering the market, the investing market. That's our goal from the beginning, so that people are not only saving, but they only invest, not only direct investment, but also portfolio investing. The advantage of portfolio investing is it has quite a lot of variety. They can start with gold, they can do it with bonds. The Investor Daily is the first media that first introduced mutual funds and unit links, and to offer investors, individual investors, with alternatives for investing. And so that Indonesian government not only have to take loans, but they can also issue bonds. And Investor Daily is also instrumental in there by encouraging the public to buy bonds, state bonds. And this helps the public to decide what to do with their funds, not only by saving it, but also investing it. They can put their funding into insurance, for instance, but also into investing to prepare for their retirement. The public should be familiar with financial planning. So when we established Investor Daily on 26th of June 2021, that's our goal, to boost the investment community. That also is marked with the growth of stock exchange in Indonesia. There used to be only about 370 emittents in this Indonesian stock exchange. We have now about 800. At the time, Singapore already had about 2,000 emittents. And the issue that happened then is the same issue that we still have now, which is market deepening. So we can say that if our public can see this history of stock exchange in Indonesia, we can say that they just have to follow the history of Investor Daily. We know that media is the best record keeper of history. So the journey of Indonesian stock exchange can be watched, can be seen, can be examined through the history of Investor Daily. I would like also to ask your opinion about the current situation when people say that this is the twilight of the print media, but actually Investor Daily could remain existing and offering the future stock exchange, and what sort of community, investing community that has been created, what are the opportunities that are available, what sort of strategy and driving force that continues to help Investor Daily to survive despite the pressure that had destroyed other media in Indonesia. We are of the opinion that platform may change. People say that print media will die because people will turn to radio or television. But one thing is for sure, journalists will still be there because they are needed. Why are they needed? Because people are always in search of the true information. We are in the digitalization era 4.0. This not only creates great news, but also a mixture of hoax and information. To find out the truth, to find out the true trustworthy information, you need media like Investor Daily because we have standards, we adhere to the press law and the journalism code of ethics. So that's the key, to check and recheck and to verify. That's what keeps media survive. And despite the hoax in social media, we are bombarded by hoax, especially with the COVID-19. Maybe 90% of them are hoaxes. We need mainstream media like Investor Daily. We need to watch television like Berita Satu to find out the true information. We believe that media will survive, mainstream media will survive so long as the journalists are professional. Investor Daily and is joining a great movement with the in Berita Satu Media Holdings. We have investor.id. This is still under construction to reach out to a lot of people with real-time information. There will also be an e-version of Investor Daily, an electronic version, wherever, so people can access Investor Daily wherever they have internet. So, and we encourage our journalists to work on various platforms. I'm sorry, there was some technical problems with the audio, so I cannot listen to what he was saying. Pak Ari Gunarto, in response to what Pak Primus said, that in this media destruction era, Investor Daily continues to transform and adjust as chief of the cook that is responsible for the ingredients to be put into the media. What can you tell me about the rhythm of the newsroom, how journalists can respond to the swiftly changing news? We are now going toward digitalization. This is it run in parallel. We develop e-paper, we also develop investor.id. We also synergize with other partners, televisions, and other online media in the same media group. So I think that's a great strength. In future, we seek for contents that are from various sectors. All sectors are now moving towards digitalization. The banking sector, the stock exchange, even the real sectors are now moving toward digitalization. So our work ethics, the content that we put in the media is also focused on the same issue. So one of the strengths of Investor Daily is synergy with other media and various platforms in the same group. Yeah, that's true. Thank you. And I would like to invite Pak Antoni Wansono as Chief Operating Officer of Berita Satu Media Holdings, under which Investor Daily is, in which Investor Daily is one of the subsidiary. What do you have to say about Investor Daily and its journey of 20 years? First of all, I would like to thank Pak Primus, Pak Gunarto, and our associates in Investor Daily, which had built Investor Daily in the past 20 years to be one of the most prominent media in Indonesia, especially on issues in banking, industry, and stock exchange. Pak Primus and Pak Gunarto said that the backbone of Berita Satu and all media, wherever they are, is the human resources. And without our newsroom, without our journalists who deliver extraordinary and in-depth news, it would not be possible for us to weather so much obstacles and hindrance that we have to overcome to be able to succeed and survive in the next 20 years. Investor Daily Summit this year is a bit emblematic, or it represents the vision and mission of Investor Daily for the past 20 years. And it also strengthens our commitment for the next 20 years, because we see that Investor Daily Summit that we organize for the 3 days, we can bridge the government and the business players, and associations and head of local governments. And we see that the interactions, we see a very deep interactions between these stakeholders. We believe that our country requires media like Investor Daily to ensure that our economy can continue to grow and we can work together to create an investment ecosystem that is lucrative for foreign investor and is encouraging for domestic investors. This is our first Investor Daily Summit this year, and we believe that we will be able to do this on an annual basis in the middle of the year, in June or July, to make it possible for us to look into the first 2 quarters and to reflect and to plan what we're going to do in the next 2 quarters. And this is also emblematic because it reflects Investor Daily as a whole. Next year, we will try to invite speakers from overseas and speakers of international level to make it possible for us to do this bilingual forum. So we believe that Investor Daily has a very great future, and we will continue to develop our network and our in-depth content and our engagement with the reader, because we see that in 2021, there is a great momentum. Last year, there is an increase of 56% of investors in Indonesia. Now we have 3.8 million investors retail in the stock exchange in Indonesia. I think this is a great momentum for Investor Daily to continue to be a role model for investors, both institutionals, retails, or in foreign investors who are interested in the future of Indonesia. So with so many themes that are presented in this Investor Daily Summit, and speakers and qualified speakers in economy, the president, ministers, CEOs, both from state-owned and private enterprises, this shows Investor Daily's commitment to serve its readers in the economy, business, and stock exchange. This will continue as a proof that Investors Daily 20 years journey has established it as one of the reference in economy. Pak Primus, Pak Gun, and I said that the outlook or the ecosystem, Indonesian investment ecosystem is changing, especially in stock exchange, because there is an increase of retail investment. So we need to adjust our content. We need to be able to adapt, to adjust our delivery system. Digitalization is ongoing. It won't stop with investor.id or social media, but we will continue to develop or establish new media to reach out to retail investors who will be the backbone of our stock exchange in the future. The outlook of companies that will control or dominate the stock exchange will also change. So we need to keep adjusting our content to explain these kinds of transformations to our readers and investors in Indonesia.
Now I will go back to Pak Primus. We know that the pandemic has ruined our national economy. As the economic media, I would like to know, how do you contribute, or how is your vision in providing news during the pandemic, especially on the topic of economy? I'm sorry, sir, you are still muted. As an economic media, we know Warren Buffett, the super investor. He has a very good philosophy that is very relevant. So when many people are scared, we need to be brave. So when all people are brave, we need to be cautious. So this is the key for success. So when all people around the world are scared, then Indonesians should not be scared. We need to start to invest, like what our president said 2 days ago when he opened the Investor Daily Summit 2021. The president said that the COVID-19 pandemic should not make us scared to invest. It should not be a barrier for us to invest. So start investing now. And the government encourage reform and transformation of economic starting this year, supported by job creation law of 2020. So we will keep providing our news. And the government has determined 7 industrial sectors for towards Indonesia Industry 4.0 in F&B, electronics, automotive, chemical and petrochemical. And inspired by the pandemic, the government also add another 2 sectors, which is pharmacy and medical devices. So this is a great vision. And from our side, we encourage all media to digitalize themselves. And considering that the world has a higher awareness of green or environment friendly, then we need to be also aware to be green. So Investor Daily has started the fire and we'll bring this fire, we'll keep this fire alive until the end. Yes. So the pandemic is not a new history. So 100 years ago, for 3 years, we had Spanish flu. This Spanish flu has affected millions of the world's population, 500 millions of the world population. And at that time, the total population of the world is 1.8 million. So it means that we have better management for the pandemic. At that time, there was no medicines, drugs, or vaccines, but now we have all of those. And with our advancement in the health technology, usually vaccines can be used after 5 to 10 years, but now we can use it faster. So we should be optimistic. In the past, flu is a pandemic. What is pandemic? Pandemic is a virus that grow or spread quickly and deadly. And after that, it will turn or transform into endemic because the people start to have immunity towards those disease. So the media should spread optimism. Yes, we do suffer from COVID-19, but that was the end of everything. We can win this war. We can fight COVID-19, and the history has proven this. Yes, thank you, Pak Primus. You said that the direction of the news presented by Investor Daily has become more broad. You also cover about environmental issue. It means that Investor Daily has also known that environmental issue will also be a trendsetter, a future trend, and Investor Daily has anticipated of these issues related to economic, which is the environment. So it means that you already have a long-term vision in the last 2 decades. In the current stock market, there's all of the public companies must provide ESG report. And Berita Satu Media Holdings is the first media company who give awards, ESG awards. It means that Investor Daily with Berita Satu Media Holdings are already present, are already there when we move towards environmental issue as the future trend. So our economy is not only seen as the circulation of money, of wealth, but it is also related with how we must be environmental friendly. So this is one of the ways of Investor Daily to survive or exist during these 2 decades. So we need to combine these 3 issues: environmental, social, meaning the people should be aware. They need to preserve the environment, clean environment, manage their waste, and also good governance by each company, from micro enterprise to big corporation. So ESG should be seen as one. We need to preserve our earth. Our earth is currently sick because we exploit it excessively. So we need to preserve it. The corporates should preserve it. That's why ESG should be seen as one. I would like to invite Pak Hari Gunarto as head chef of Investor Daily. So news on economic doesn't only highlight about the economy, about the cash flow, but also covers about ESG issues. And so the human resources should also increase the knowledge on ESG. How do you see this, Pak Hari? Because we need to be in line, be in step with the future issues. So how do you make sure that the human resources in Investor Daily have the knowledge, sufficient knowledge in this era? So in regards to the content, going forward, we will always try to dig deep what the readers want to read. What is the trend in the world? What is the trend in Indonesia? So we will equip our human resources. We will always upgrade them with sufficient knowledge. And the point is, we must present contents that is in trend in the world or in Indonesia. It should be in line with our concept, which is positive journalism. We will always keep growing optimism in all sectors, in economy, in finance, especially in sectors which we are strong in, which is economy and finance. So journalists, this profession needs to keep learning, never-ending learning, because every day we will have new issues. We need to adjust to the new customer behavior and what they want to read, how they view the economical issues, and also a broader issues, not only about investment, about finance, about manufacturers, but also the sectors or issue that Pak Primus has mentioned, which is ESG. I would like to go back to Pak Antony. So after these 2 decades, the competition is not easy. Especially there are more and more mass media who have digital platform. So Investor Daily and Berita Satu Media Holdings need to be there in this, keep up in this competition. Do you have any steps or measures that you prepare to face the future competition? Yes, it is difficult. We believe in 3 values in our media groups, and especially in Investor Daily. First, we believe that we need to assess our customer or our audience. We need to be obsessed with them. We need to find out what they need. What is the added value that we can provide? And what can make them really see the benefit that they can get from Investor Daily? So this brings us to the second principle, which is passion for innovation. We need to keep innovating. We must have the spirit to transform. We need to be humble to understand that we will not always be number one, be the best, but we must believe that we need to keep innovating. You can see our headlines during this last 1 year. We keep innovating our headlines, our first page. Pak Primus, Pak Hari often had long nights. They are trying to find the best design for the first page. And the last point or principle is operational excellence. Synergy that is mentioned by Pak Primus and Pak Hari. We need to coordinate under the holding company of media Berita Satu. And we see that, and we believe that Investor Daily will always put forward positive journalism. We will not fall into the trap of clickbait. We will not fall into the trap of non-comprehensive contents, which is not been rechecked first. We want to present meaningful, contextual, comprehensive, deep contents. And of course, in this digital era, we need to provide contents speedily, quickly, so this can benefit our readers, our audience. Like I mentioned, we are not only have one brand, Investor Daily. Investor Daily's future will be the umbrella of investment media in Indonesia. Investor Daily will create new verticals. It will create new niche for new media. And I invite our audience today and also our loyal readers to keep following our transformation, our journey into the future. And in this occasion, I would like to convey our main reason why we can survive for 20 years. And we pray that we can keep surviving for the next 20 years. The main reason is because of you, our loyal readers who keep trusting us, who buy and read our papers every day, and also provide correction or inputs about what happened in our economy. So it is our backbone, and we are very grateful that we have so many, so wide loyal readers and audiences in these last 20 years. Thank you, Pa Anthony. It seems that we need to end this morning discussion session with Pa Anthony, Pa Primus, and Pa Hari Gunarto. Thank you for your insights, for your sharing on your experience, your journey for the last 20 years in Investor Daily. Please allow me to greet our speakers who will present in the next session. First is Pak Sandiaga Uno. He has joined us, the Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy. Good morning, Pak Sandiaga. Good morning. Thank you, Pak Sandi, for joining us. And I would like also to greet the Chairman of the Indonesian Hotel and Restaurant Association, Pak Haryadi Sukamdani. I want to greet Region of Pemalang, Pak Mukti Agung Wibowo. Good morning, sir. You are still muted. Okay, so we already have him in this Zoom meeting. I would like to also President Director of Lintas Arta, Arya Damar. Thank you for joining us. And also Mayor of Bogor City, Pak Bima Arya. Good morning and thank you for joining us. And we also have Region of North Minahasa, John Ganda. Good morning, sir. And thank you for joining us. Please allow me to ask for your favor, Mr. Minister, Head of Regional Government, Mr. John Ganda, Mr. Mukti Agung Wibowo, and Mr. Bima Arya, Pak Haryadi, and Pak Arya Damar to have a group photo. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. So, okay, we will take the picture, our group picture first. Okay, thank you for your time. Now we will start our first session is to stimulate tourism and to build the regional economy. We have great speakers and resource person. We have Sandiaga Uno, Haryadi Sukamdani, Bima Arya, Arya Damar, Mukti Agung Wibowo, and John Ganda.
To start our session this morning, I would like to invite Mr. Sandiaga Uno to deliver his keynote speech. But before we begin with Pak Sandiaga's keynote speech, as the president of Indonesian Rhyming, I'd like to tell you a rhyme. This is in line with your suggestion that we need to include rhymes in our speeches because it's our legacy, something that has been recognized by the UNESCO as an intangible heritage. From mountains to the sea, even though we need to continue developing our tourism despite the pandemic. So the floor is yours, Mr. Sandiaga. Please deliver your keynote speech. From Bogor to Minahasa, don't forget to read Investor Daily. If we want to recover our tourism, please don't forget to visit Bali. So that's another rhyme. This is a struggling rhyme. One of our traditional culinary is surabi. You can put various toppings on it. Don't be afraid of the pandemics. And let's focus on innovation and collaboration. Agnes Monica is one of Indonesia's favorite singer who has a very beautiful voice. And pandemic will soon be over so long as you follow the health protocols. I am very proud to be part of the Investor Daily Summit, this event that is held by Berita Satu Media Holdings. Thank you so much for the invitation. I also would like to greet my colleague, Mr. Bahlil Lahadalia, Head of the Investment Coordinating Board and Minister of Investment. Also Pak Primus, who I've known since I was in the private sector. I hope that Investor Daily, under your leadership, will continue to thrive in the future. I also would like to appreciate Pak Anthony and Pak James, who have been our partner in the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Industry. Also Pak Arya Damar, Pak Arya Bima, Pak Bima Arya, my friend, and the head of Pemalang district. I haven't met him, even though I was part of his campaign team during the election. Pak Mukti Agung Wibowo, send my hello to your mother. I was very impressed with her spirit when we met a couple of times. Also, my friend, head of North Minahasa District, John Ganda, a millennial who is now the head of a district. One of our prioritized tourism destination in Minahasa Utara. I wish you all success. We're all brothers. Let's go and visit Kupang. I have a small presentation prepared about how to boost tourism to develop local economy in the midst of the pandemics and economic difficulties. Tourism had borne a very significant impact with causing a drop of 80% of foreign exchange reserves. Over 2 million jobs are in peril. Creative economy has to continue to transform toward digitalization. And despite there is a slight drop, but creative economy can contribute over 1,100 trillion rupiah, the second highest. And Indonesia now holds the third position after Hollywood, Korea with the K-pop industry, and then the third is Indonesia. Now is the best time to improve human resources at this while we're facing this pandemic, this crisis. These are the steps that we take to do this. The 5 activities to improve the human resources. Last year was a very difficult year, but it prompts me to finish my education. I just finished my program because now I have the time because of the pandemic. So this is the time to improve ourselves. Apart from infrastructure, we can improve on our human resources. And then the next step is revitalization of tourism destination and creative economy infrastructure. I was planning to go to Dili Kupang, but because of the PPKM, I have to postpone it. But we continue to boost revitalization by improving infrastructure network and to improve digitalization. We also improve resilience and competitiveness of businesses, especially for businesses that are now under threat and pressure from the pandemics. We also have to focus on product and service innovation and market recovery and expansion. President Jokowi had set 5 priority tourism destination. Toba Lake, which we continue to develop with Mr. Luhut Panjaitan, and then Borobudur and its surrounding area. In 2 provinces, Central Java and Yogyakarta, and other districts, including Pemalang. This is a very strategic region that is impacted by our activity in the Borobudur Authority unit. And then there is Mandalika, which focuses on water sports tourism, and then Labuan Bajo, with better infrastructure, with the new port is thriving. And then there's Likupang in Manado. But we are also going to boost 5 other destinations: Bangka Belitung, Bromo Tengger Semeru, Wakatobi, Raja Ampat, and Morotai. But interestingly, Mr. Primus and participants, in the midst of massive development in priority destinations, there are micro developments that we are conducting, which are tourism village. And these are the pandemic winners. From Aceh to Rote, everyone is eagerly developing tourism villages. And we have even set up an award for tourism village. And we thank Investor Daily for continuing to report on tourism village as the motor or the engine behind economic growth. Investment realization for tourism is still pretty low, but I've just watched the signing of MOU between Paramount Parks and Resort, a creative economy company that will invest in Jembrana in Bali. So we are very touched that even in the midst of this pandemic, investment activities continues to continue to happen. comparison between tourism investment compared to national investment is still very low. This is now the best time to invest when there is volatility, vulnerability. So we need to push investment as a strategy to recover in this difficult time. So how do we support investment? We have 3 strategies: profiling, promotion, and advocacy. We continue to push for fiscal incentives for investment in tourism because we see that the tourism and creative investment, creative economy creates a lot of job opportunities. So we push for tax allowance and import exemption of import fees for and super deduction tax. And we hope that this will increase a tax base and tax ratio increase through the expansion of labor-intensive sectors in the tourism. Investment of $1 in tourism sectors will create about 6 times more jobs than in other sectors. So let's support tourism in the recovery of economy, which will be the success in the time of pandemics. The first one is to move fast and then to move together, because we cannot do anything alone. We have to work together and we have to work stronger. We have to recover together stronger. And then the last one, especially in the university where I interact a lot last year, is to work comprehensively, not to leave any stone unturned, to not ignore certain sectors that have not been touched on. We have to stimulate them to keep them thriving. So thank you so much. I wish Investor Daily and success with its Investor Summit. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Sandiaga Uno, Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy, for his brief and very clear explanation as to the strategies to recover and boost the tourism. I think the most interesting thing that he said is that there are 1,500 tourist villages in Indonesia, and they are the ones that are thriving in this pandemic. But developing tourism requires funding, requires budget. We know that there are village budgets and other budgets, for example, from the Public Works Ministry. So what are the strategies for funding or financing this village, tourist village, to keep its numbers growing? We need to do training, assistance, and support. So we believe that the finance that had been disbursed for these villages is enough. So we're not going to give any more financing. We know that we are facing financial challenges. So in the Tourism Village Award, we are giving training on how to manage the village budget to create jobs, to create economic breakthroughs and new skills, because this pandemic is forcing us to update our skills and to reskill. And then assistance. A lot of these tourism village have difficulties getting network, internet, for example. I've just been to the conference of an association that provides telecommunication towers. So my proposal is to give every tourism village a 4G tower to allow them to have access to the internet. So by this assistance, they can produce a creative economy or creative producers, creative products. And then the last one is entrepreneurship. And by this program, we try to encourage the growth of small and medium enterprises in the village, and and that way they can create more jobs. So we have the funding from the Ministry of Rural Affairs and other agencies. We try to manage the traffic of this funding, and then we try to improve its tourism appeal. And finally, we try to improve the prosperity or the welfare of the rural villagers, the rural residents. They have 4 stages that they have to go through to get it. From the startup village, we have villages that we classify as startups, and then to developing villages, and then developed village, and then independent village. It's the equivalent of the unicorns. So we want to create about 244 unicorn village out of the 1,500 startup villages. So this is the approach: personalized, customized, localized, and smaller in size. So these are the approach that we use to develop these villages. People are now working from unique locations with this remote working style. Bali has the cleanest village, Desa Penglipuran, and then there's the most beautiful village in the world. And then there's Desa Pujong Timul in Malang, an icon of tourism in East Java. So these are some of the breakthroughs that we want. And I would like to thank the head of district of Minahasa Utara and Pemalang, where these villages, these award-winning villages, are in this area. And then there are also villages under Bima Arya's leadership that are now part of the 1,500 tourism village. And we also have partners with other associations to create homestays in tourism village, so that people who stay in these villages feel that they are staying at 4-star or 5-star hotel. Do you still have time to stay with us or not? But so thank you to the head of districts, Pak John, Pak Bima Arya, Pak Mukti. Pak Bima Arya, you have been very inspirational. It was very inspiring to see his Instagram. Pak Arya Damar, let's create good fiber optic backbone in the village tourist destination, because tourism is identical with digital now. We want to tell a story when we visit a location. We want to post it on TikTok, on Instagram. People like to do Zoom meeting from tourism location, and this needs the sort of connection that is provided by the internet. So we need to provide solution for this to make it possible for our economy to recover after the pandemic. This is part of our effort to boost the engine that will move the economic recovery after the pandemic. Thank you so much, Mr. Sandiaga Uno, for taking the time. I hope that your motto of working fast, working together, and working comprehensively will have the desired effect. So congratulations. If I'm not mistaken, you're going to be graduating with a master's degree, so congratulations. I have to attend the graduation to give inspiring speech to the graduates. So again, congratulations. And again, Thank you. We will continue with our discussion this this morning. The topic is boosting tourism to develop local economy. I would like to invite CEO of Lintas Arta, Mr. Arya Damar. You have 10 minutes. That Pak Sandiaga said that we need the backbone support of internet connection to create the 244 unicorns of tourism villages. So what are you going to do about this to support tourism from information technology? 10 minutes, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Assalamualaikum. Peace be upon us all. To Pak Dinar Mukti Agung, Pak Haryadi, Pak Arya Damar, especially Pak Primus who initiate this event. Once again, I really appreciate Investor Daily because during the pandemic, this event give us optimism that we need to keep striving during the pandemic. So after the pandemic, we can rise again and back to our daily activities, normal daily activities. So ICT or information and communication technology is a must. We know that there are many viral news because before the pandemic, many people travel to certain places and they can spread their photos everywhere through Instagram. We need ICT for this, and we realize this. And until now, if I may tell a brief presentation about what we've been doing so far. So our government and operator and ICT operator has developed this. So for the last 5 years, the government has realized that the operators focus on area that will create business for them. So what happened to the area that is not very attractive for business? So the government developed Palaparing satellite. We know that Indonesia is an archipelago, so we need to connect the islands using a fast communication. So we need to have fiber optic connection. So in 2019, we already have a project for undersea cable, and it is operating now, and it connects 90 districts all over Indonesia. This is beside what the fiber optic cables owned by other operators. This is what we really need right now. We can imagine that with internet, we can send emails, we can watch YouTube, and so on. We need the internet. Now we will have 11,800 points of location that already connected by internet. So from 120 countries in the world, we are in number 66. This is not a bad position, but also not good enough. Since we are very big, our nation is very fast, we need to access every villages. We need to make sure that every villages has internet connection. And currently in 2021, although we are in the middle of pandemic, together with operators, we need to activate BTS or base transceiver station. We are currently develop BTS in many villages. This is thanks to the collaboration between the operators and the government. Because this, besides for tourism, we also need to provide the connection for education. Nowadays, children needs to learn or study from home, so they need to have internet access. And we also need to provide internet to the frontier, remote, and underdeveloped areas. After all of these measures, we need to build a digital ecosystem. We will also push or promote this. And in 2023, we will have a very high throughput satellite or a VHTS with a big bandwidth capacity. And in 2023, the government will launch this satellite. Hopefully, our condition will be much better by then, so we can launch the satellite. And in 2024, we will build new BTS in more points or more locations all over Indonesia. This shows the commitment of the Indonesian government to provide internet access for communication all over Indonesia. And we see that the currently available infrastructure, we need to realize that infrastructure is a must. We need to be able to reach the frontier, remote, and underdeveloped areas. After we have the infrastructure, then we need to digitalize them. How can we digitalize them? To boost the regional economy through smart city or smart tourism. We also push for digitalization to the infrastructure. We need to digitalize the infrastructure. We need to digitalize the government and also the community. So after we have internet, now we need to digitalize. With the pandemic, like it or not, people need to work from home. In big cities, people can utilize digital infrastructure and facilities, and we need to also provide this in other area, in the tourism destinations. You can imagine that when you watch films on YouTube, YouTube is an application and the films are saved in cloud. And one of the server maybe is located in the US. So we need to build these apps, these applications, so that our people can use it. And also the government can use it. And where should we put the servers? So currently, the Minister of Information and Communication has already provided cloud for the government to serve the applications centrally in the city and district level. This is for e-permitting or licensing, e-planning, MSME, e-tourism, e-farmer. So all of this can be saved in the cloud system owned by our Ministry of Communication and Information. They already provide this to be utilized by the regional government. Like what Pak Sandi has said, we need to be together, work together, collaborate to find a more sufficient solution. Next. In Lintas Arta, we strive to provide cloud for our users so that our users can use this. We also support the Minister of Communication and Information. We always promote this so that people can utilize our cloud service. And with the cloud service, the regional government can generate apps, applications that the tourism sector can utilize. For example, for hotel digital check-in, now we can see many people using QR code for hotel check-in. And we see QRIS as payment method. And we can use Bluetooth low energy technology so that the customer can make use of this. For example, tenant finding at the malls, shopping malls. And for video analytics, we can see the area where there are floods or many garbage. So all of these apps can work on the current infrastructure, currently available infrastructure. So we encourage every region to have all of this infrastructure so that all tourists can enjoy this technology, this connection. And this policy needs to be implemented together by the academics, business, community, and the government, or ABCG, or what we call triple helix. So all of these parties need to be able to generate data and insight. So maybe the government has data on who are coming to Indonesia, what is their gender, and so on. And if they open this data for the business, then the tourism sector or the players in the tourism sector can utilize this data and develop a better service. We have creative industry, then Indonesian people needs to create the apps to meet our needs. So with the communication infrastructure, hopefully we can achieve all of these. That would be all for my presentation. Let us collaborate to develop our tourism and economic to be a more smarter, to make Indonesia more smarter city to city. So, thank you, sir. So with the collaboration, we need to develop smart tourism. Because we have limited time, I would like to invite our next speaker, which is Mayor of Bogor, Bima Arya Sugiarto.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to the esteemed Pak Primus, Pak Haryadi, and other panelists. Bogor as a city depends on MICE industry, services, and tourism. Before the pandemic, hotels and restaurants are always full with corporate and government for conferences and meetings, while on weekends, people from Jakarta flock to Bogor. The second biggest source of income for Bogor is MICE services. And this is why we are devastated by the pandemics. Last year, we studied the economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic, because I was convinced that if we are to design the program, we need to map out our challenges. We map it out for 2 months, and this is the result. So 42% of Bogor residents lost their job because of the pandemic, and this is quite a high number. And the data shows that some have returned to work, some are still unemployed, but in general, 42% was laid off after the pandemic. If we look closely into this, the sector that is most impacted is drivers, store workers, freelancers, and restaurant workers. A lot of them are paid, a lot of these workers are paid on a daily basis. So when this PPKM is in effect, we are working hard to try to help those who could not earn a living because they have to close their stores, because their hotels is closed, and they cannot open their restaurants. And if we look at the data, apart from those who lost their jobs, many of the respondents, about 80% of them, have seen a drop in their income. 22% enjoys the same amount of income. Some lost about half of their income, and 8% even had no income whatsoever. But there is 1% of residents who claim that their income went up after the pandemic, because apparently some people are benefiting from this pandemic and they are better off after the pandemic. And who are they? When we look into them, certain products boomed or became quite a hype during the pandemic. These are producers of healthy foods, sports equipment, sellers of fruits and vegetables. These are in high demand. The demands for these raised by 300%. And then also producers of frozen food and ready to eat food. So these are the sectors that we need to look into, and we need to synergize this with the pentahelix that had been described by the other speakers. This cannot be done alone. I asked the Agriculture Office to work with campuses and businesses to encourage urban farming. To the tourism and creative economic, I asked them to work with communities to create concepts to revitalize tourist destinations. And also home interior, home decorations. This is quite a growing business as well. So people who have to stay at home enjoy decorating their home with home interior, home decor products. So this is also another booming business. And we established outlets and made an inventory of what sort of products are in high demands, and we collaborate with small and medium businesses to create these products. What steps we're taking after this? We had imposed certain tax incentives. Then we work with the central bank through QREs to allow cashless payment. There are also tax exemptions and others incentives, so that people are incentivized to pay their taxes sooner. And this had helped to boost our revenues, although not to the level of pre-pandemic number, but at least it's not so bad, because this tax incentives and facilities that allows more cashless payments, this also helps. We also need to boost other sectors, which Pa Sandi had mentioned earlier. We need to create another economic rebound through nature tourism. Many Jakartans went to to Sentul to do nature travel, to cross country, and some of these are supported with communities like this in Mulia Harja. This is a location for agro-tourism, and it has thematic tourism, so people can do trekking and hiking, and they also have culinary tourism destinations. And this revitalize the economy, the local economy. There are some youth groups that are into photography. The women in the areas cook for the tourists, and the men also have found new employments. We even had to close this village at some point because there are so many people coming in to visit. And we have been able to replicate this in other destinations. This is also another example of tourism and creative economy. We invited some influencers to visit Mulia Harja and Kebun Raya. So we don't only want economic recovery, but we also want economic rebound. Kebun Raya, our botanical garden, we have also designed Night at the Botanical Garden. And this is a new program, but unfortunately, because of PPKM, we have to postpone it. Apart from trekking, hiking, and jogging in nature, we also offer rafting tours. We have encouraged the development of rafting tourism while following health protocols. And but there are some nature tourism that gives direct benefit to the people living in the area. I also asked the agricultural office to create applications for people who want to use their limited space for urban farming. So they can look into this application, Bogor Berkebun. They will get a seed, fertilizers, plants, and also other material that can be used to develop urban farming in limited space. And I think this is quite successful because it helps to boost the economy, but it's also a way for the residents to relax, to enjoy themselves. I encourage housewives and young people to engage in urban farming. Then we also choose products from small and medium enterprises and pick those that are very high in demand, and then sell them in outlets that we have prepared Bogor is now preparing the platform Bogor Hitch, a platform for small and medium enterprises to help them market their products. And these are some of the products that we have received for our innovations and our creations to recover from this difficult time, not only to achieve recovery, but also to have an economic rebound. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. One question, Pak Bima. In the past 16 years, head of regions have added responsibilities. Yesterday, Governor of Jawa Barat, Ridwan Kamil, said that they have added burdens. But recovery from COVID is important, but programs have to continue. But I want to know what the strategies in terms of tourism. What strategies does the government of Bogor have to prepare for when this pandemic is over so that things can pick up very fast? First, we prepared alternative destination. We need to rebound. We no longer want just recovery, just not from negative to zero, but we need to go above zero. So we prepare nature tourism, spots of nature tourism, and we renovate certain destinations. For example, in Batu Tulis, we are accelerating this renovation so that once the situation is normal, people will have a lot of options. There are thematic villages that we are preparing as well. So first of all, destinations, alternative destinations for when situations is back to normal. And then in communication with tourism stakeholders. We collaborate with the Hotel Association to prepare guides, because with the increased number of destinations without guides, it's going to be difficult to manage them. And then the health protocols. Even when the situation is back to normal, we need to maintain these health protocols to avoid health consequences. So thank you, Pak Bima, for your time and explanation. After we have listened to two speakers today. Now we're going to invite the third speaker, Pak Haryadi Sukamdhani, Chair of Hotel and Restaurant Association, as to represent the businesses in tourism. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Moderator, Mr. Bima Arya Sugiarto, Mr. Arya Damar, Mr. Mukti Agung Wibowo, Mr. Yun Ganda, and my friend Pak Primus as the host. I will go in straight go to my presentation since we have limited time. We have heard from the Minister Sandiaga about the government programs. Mr. Arya Damar has also present on Lintas Arta programs and also the Mayor of Bogor. First, we need to understand that tourism is the movement or mobilization of people who wants new experience with all of its sensation. If there is no movement of people, then there is no demand for tourism sector. So when we have lockdown, then the tourism will be impacted because there is no demand. So like what Mr. Arya Damar and Bima Arya said, for the recovery, yes, we are ready. The problem is, now we are still in the midst of pandemic. So the main problem for tourism sector is, since we are still in the midst of the pandemic, we cannot control it, so we have lockdowns. Every time the number of COVID-19 patients hike up, then we will have lockdown, stricter lockdown. So we will take a look at references from other countries. Next, the next problem is the concern of the tourists to the risk to get infected by COVID-19. The next problem is the limited connectivity. So when we have lockdown or restriction, then the connectivity will decrease. And automatically the cost for travel will be higher. Since we need to be quarantined, the price for ticket will also increase. We also need to pay for the COVID-19 test, insurance, and so on. This is the lesson that we can learn from the US. The current population of the US is 339 million. So it is similar with Indonesia. So we compare with a nation that has the similar population with us. The US never conduct any lockdown or strict restriction, and they never limit the incoming foreigners to their country. And I heard yesterday from the husband of Miss Mari Pangestu, now it is quite difficult to go into the US, to get into the US, but they still doesn't have any restriction. And the speed of their inoculation is quite good, 3.4 million doses per day. The previous president, Donald Trump, suggests injecting disinfectants to the patients. So with this outrageous precedent, on January 20th, they have a new president, Joe Biden. And during their Independence Day, 4th of July, I quote his speech that said, they are celebrating Independence Day and independence from COVID-19. So from January 20th to July, it is about 6 months. And this is their condition after 6 months. You can see the drop on the number of cases. The number is around 30,000 daily, and also the daily new deaths is around 300. So we need to learn from this. We need to keep our focus from our main problem. And this is another example in New York. This is on April 20th. We remember that they have a separate island. Maybe if Indonesia, it is like Rorotan for cemetery for COVID patients. They have trucks here to keep the dead bodies in the freezer because their death rate is 1,000 people daily. It was in April 2020, and in December 2020, they have the first vaccination, and in May 2021, they have opened several parks, and all cafes and restaurants were also open since May. And now that 70% of adults have at least one vaccine shot, they or the New Yorkers have opened the restriction, have loosened up the restriction. So we need to also achieve 70% of a population already receive vaccination. So now the condition is Indonesia. We're still in the midst of the pandemic. Our condition is still very bad. And as per yesterday, July 14th, the daily new cases is almost 1,000 and daily new cases 54,000. So this is very bad for the tourism sector, especially the shopping malls. When there is any problems, then they will close the shopping malls. Well, there are restaurants who operate inside the mall. So the target for vaccination is currently 208 million people. And currently for the first doses, the first dose has been given to 39 million people, and the second dose has been given to 15 million from the total of 208 million. So it is still very far. So only 8% of the target that we have met. So this is what makes us in the tourism sector very worried. This is the comparison of occupancy rate, hotel occupancy rate. Whenever there's restriction, the occupancy rate will drop. The blue line is the data for 2021. Bali in April is 10.9%. Last year was 3.22. So it's getting better. But since now we have lockdown again, then it will decrease again. So in May in Bali, then the figure is 10.35. But the rate in big cities such as in Jakarta is quite good. In April 2021, it increased 46% in Jakarta. And in May, it decreased a little compared to last year, around 20%. So before the restriction, the number has increased in 2021. It is also has been confirmed with the macro data in the Statistical Bureau and also report from the government. So what is the impact in each region? Like what Pak Bima Arya said, in Bogor City, they really depend on MICE sector. But in this condition, we cannot get any income from MICE sector. All activities are decreased, so it will decrease the income from hotels and also taxes from the tourism sector, including hotels. Previously, it is the top 3 source for regional income, but now it decreased significantly. It also affected the micro, small, and medium enterprises who provide goods and services for the tourism sectors, for hotels, and so on. And it also impacted the laborers, the workers who work in the hotels, restaurants. So approximately during the pandemic, we have lost around 40% compared to 2019. So 40% of formal workers in the tourism sector lost their job. And it can only be compensated if we already recover this condition and there is new investment coming in. So in the regions, around 30 to 40% of the hotel occupancy rate comes from the government. So the government has a huge contribution to the region's income. Since we have a very big changes in the for the business in the hotel and restaurant sector, first is the health and safety standards. We need to fulfill all of these new standards. And in terms of digitalization, everyone has gone digital, especially in F&B sector. And for efficiency, since everyone go digital, we can cut down on many costs. But for utility, for example, for the electricity, we still pay a quite high rate. And automatically, it will also impact the job or employment opportunities. Like I mentioned, 40% of the workers in the tourism sector has lost their job. So the tourism sector will not recover if we cannot control or manage COVID-19 pandemic quickly. We need to prioritize on giving the vaccines to our population quickly and massively, using vaccines with high efficacy. And we also have cross-sectoral coordination with the other ministries and other government sectors. We have problems in giving the vaccination because we don't have enough medical workers. So we work together, our private sector also work together with the government. So we will pay for those medical workers to provide vaccines to the population. Next is to loosen or to relax the requirements for travel, both for tourists, domestic tourists, and also foreign tourists, but also by observing a very strict health protocols. For example, we need to have quarantines, but with the notes that we have reached a significant number of people getting vaccines. And several flights or airlines have decreased their operation. Even Air Asia Indonesia has stopped all of their flights in Indonesia. They have announced that they will stop their flights, and this will also affect the connectivity during the recovery. And we also need to save the tourism business by relaxing the debt restructuring. It should be according to the capability of the creditors or debtors to pay for the loans. So the government has extended this to from March 2020 to March 2021, and now the government has extended again. But this doesn't answer the problem. They only move the interest. But we do not have any real debt restructuring methods or measures, so that many business in the tourism sector will go into bankruptcy since they have huge loan. Thank you, Pak Haryadi, for your presentation, very concise and clear. Tourism sector is the most affected by the pandemic because tourism needs movement or mobility of people. And during the pandemic, the government really restrict the movement of people because the tourism sector needs activity where people directly meet face-to-face. So the probability that we will lose 40% of human resources to the tourism sector is really saddening. Now I would like to ask you about incentive. You mentioned that the incentive for tourism sector is very minimum. The PLN or the Indonesian Power Company only give 1% discount, and also the loan debt restructuring is also not good enough. Now, from the players in the tourism sector, all of this is for the supply side, but we do not see any measures from the demand side. Different from the manufacturing sector, for example, for the automotive industry, the government also give incentive to the buyers, to the consumers, so it will increase the demand. So, according to you, to your opinion, what kind of incentive that you think will save the players in the tourism sector, will save the workers who will lose their job in this sector? So our problem is different with the manufacturing sector. Yes, in the automotive industry, the government can give fiscal incentive, the government can decrease the taxes, but it's different in tourism sector. In tourism, we need people to move. The main point is the mobilization or the movement of people. We have collaborated with INACA, we have collaborated with AirAsia, we have created packages, but in this condition, no one wants to fly, no one wants to travel. So we are very worried that there is a big mismatch between their capability, their buying power, with the load or the burden and the equity. We have lost so many equity or capital. And especially in property sectors such as hotel or restaurants in good location. If these conditions keeps going, then there will be hostile takeover, for example, to the hotels and restaurants. We have seen this from many perspectives. The concept or the condition is very different with the crisis in 2018. At that time, in 2018, the government gave blanket guarantee, but now it's different. So we need intervention from the government to bridge this gap. Until today, we have not found a pattern or a method to answer this problem, because we know that the financial authority or OJK push the banks for the debt restructuring. But the OJK push the banks to collect their debts. Okay, thank you, Pak Haryadi. We will discuss further during the Q&A session. Now, I would like to invite Pak Mukti Agung Wibowo, this head of Pemalang District. How can you bring tourism from in Pemalang can be more popular in Indonesia and also in other countries? You've been in your position for 5 months. So what programs do you have for tourism in Pemalang? The floor is yours, Pak Mukti Agung Wibowo.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I hope that we all remain healthy and under God's protection. My esteemed moderator and panelists, and also the participants of Investor Daily Summit 2021, wherever you are watching this program, please allow me to share the potentials and opportunities for tourism and the challenges it faced in Pemalang. According to our topic for today, boosting tourism to develop local economy, Pemalang continues to encourage the growth of tourism despite the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic that started in 2020 had caused significant impact that results in the drop in the number of hotel occupancy and income and local revenues, and also an increase in unemployment. Pemalang has various terrains, beaches, mountains. It's strategically located not very far from Jakarta, about 3 hours away from Jakarta, and from Semarang, about a couple of hours. And it's flanked by Pekalongan in the east and Tegal in the west. Pemalang also has an airport now. Pemalang also have various potentials for tourism. The following video will show you what Pemalang has to offer in terms of tourism. This is the forest. That offers education tourism. This is Igir Kandang that shows the vista of Gunung Slamet Summit. Pemalang has coffee plantation, including Pulau Sari coffee, which has a very unique taste comparable with other more famous coffee from other regions. And rafting in Curug Bengkawah. There's a very fast-moving rapid that you can enjoy with rafting. This is the specialty pineapple from Pemalang. It tastes very sweet, even though it's smaller in size. This is also another location that we're trying to develop, where they grow milkfish and then crab and other kinds of fish products that we are marketing as specialty food. Pemalang is also known for its nasi grombiang. And lastly, this is the sunset at Pantai Widuri or Widuri Beach in Pemalang. We have just watched a short video on the hidden paradise in Pemalang. Due to time limit, we can't share with you everything, but you can watch the potentials of Pemalang in 2021 on our YouTube channel. The problems that we encounter on the ground are some legal administrative requirements that have to be met by tourism organizers or management. There is a lack of promotion and lack of human resources, skilled human resources. So we need to develop a strategy to develop tourism in Pemalang. We continue to develop infrastructure and then the quantity and quality of human resources and the administrative structure of tourism organizers, and promote the tourism on virtual tours. We also engage in digitalization of tourism using tourism village application that you can download on Play Store. We also have Pemalang Card. Amandewi is an e-commerce platform for marketing, digital payment for destination, tourism destination, and also souvenirs, tourism travels, and other tourism-related businesses. You can access it through Amandemi platform. That is our program that can promote and market to introduce tourism and the culture, souvenirs, culinary delights in Pemalang to people on the internet. This is our target for digitalization for this year. Our hope is to achieve several developed tourism villages in Pemalang. We are also in the process of registering Pemalang pineapple as geographic specialty to protect its community ownership. We also provide to facilitate investment in Pemalang, and we have something that is called Palugada. Whatever you want, we can offer it to you. Even though I've only been in office for the past 5 months, we try to develop not only tourism, but also fisheries, industry, agriculture, including the Paname shrimp cultivation, about 200 hectares of shrimp ponds that we develop with various stakeholders. We also develop village tourism villages or DEWI and digital villages, as well as urban industries. We hope that by boosting tourism and developing local economy, we can create economic growth and reduce the number of unemployment, and then we can get more revenues from tourism and thus improve the investment rate of Pemalang and achieve the goal of achieving the goal of making Pemalang a city that you want to visit. Thank you so much, Pak Mukti Agung Wibowo, for your brief explanation on tourism in Pemalang. Next, I would like to invite our fifth and last speakers, Head of Minahasa Utara District, Jun Ganda, who has only been in office for the past 5 months, but faced by the difficult challenge of developing Likupang, one of the destination that has been designated as priority destination. So what are your strategies to develop this priority destination? You have 10 minutes, Mr. John Ganda. The floor is yours. Thank you, Pak Primus. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would like to start this explanation with another rhyme, like Mr. Sandiaga Uno earlier. In Minahasa Utara, we have Likupang. It has beautiful scenery. Pandemic might limit our movement, but we shouldn't restrict ourselves from traveling. Our esteemed Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy, Pak Sandiaga Uno, the panelists, Pak Bima Arya, Pak Haryadi Sukamdhani, Chair of Hotel and Restaurant Association, Pak Mukti Agung Wibowo, Head of Pemalang District. And at this, I would like to use this opportunity from Minahasa Utara, where we have Likupang, one of the priority destinations in Minahasa Utara. I'm going to divide this presentation into 3 parts: the potentials in Minahasa Utara, and the strategy to develop sustainable tourism in Minahasa Utara, and the last part is the conclusion. First of all, I would like to say that Minahasa Utara is a district in the province of North Sulawesi. It has the longest beachfront, so we have immense potentials for tourism. And we are one of the 5 super priority destinations that had been designated by President Joko Widodo. In developing tourism, we know that we are faced with the great challenge that is encountered not only by Indonesia, but also by other countries with tourism industry, which is COVID-19 pandemics. In North Minahasa, the impact is quite significant because flights from other areas have been canceled, and our economic growth have contracted and went into the negatives, minus 0.9% last year. But we have come up with certain strategies to meet these strategies going forward, and we have divided these into 4 strategies, into 4 steps to revitalize tourism in North Minahasa. First, our plan is to open direct investment. We continue to invite foreign investors to invest in North Minahasa, but we also continue to engage in activities to promote tourism. In April, we organized Likupang Duathlon, and also we have competition, Likupang underwater photography competition in 2021, and golf goes to Likupang. And these activities are part of our efforts to revitalize tourism in North Minahasa, especially in Likupang. In October, we are going to promote tourism in North Minahasa, where we have set certain events that are now in the calendar of the Minister of Tourism and Creative Industry. Our strategy to accelerate development of tourism in North Minahasa is to accelerate supporting infrastructure, basic infrastructure that is developed with the assistance of the central government, especially Ministry of Public Works. So, for example, development of homestays in tourism villages in North Minahasa. There are over 250 homestays that had been built by the Public Works Ministry that had helped to support development of tourism. We also help to promote tourism through education, by raising public awareness of tourism potentials in Minahasa, so that people can be part of the hospitality industry to welcome the tourists coming into North Minahasa. In Likupang, we have a hotel that is being built, which we hope will be a trigger or an engine to move or to invite investors to invest in North Minahasa. We are also educate the public on green health and management to encourage CHSE in for tourists that come to North Minahasa. We also develop the agriculture sector to help support development of tourism in North Minahasa. We know that agriculture product can help contribute to local revenues, and it creates economic multiplier effects from the tourism. We have good local specialties that is part of our tourism development in North Minahasa. And fourthly, or the last strategy, is we try to boost the economy by inviting all stakeholders to think about developing our region and give multiplier effect to the community. We had organized tourism training so that every business players can understand their role and can participate in this effort. We also conduct COVID-19 vaccination to ensure that people who are working in the tourism sectors are vaccinated. And lastly, out of these activities that we have done to develop tourism in North Minahasa, we want to be able to help low-income people. And we hope that this investment in tourism can help contribute to comprehensive development in the environment sector and the social sector in Minahasa. We also want to boost foreign investor in North Minahasa For example, in the development of the hotel in North Minahasa, which is partly built with direct foreign investors. And this will guide our development, our strategy for development of tourism. And it will give the proper direction for the development of tourism in North Minahasa Utara. We cannot deny that sustainable tourism will require technology, and this will be developed in the area, in the local area. For example, with the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, which will be used in various aspects of tourism industry in North Minahasa. Thank you so much. And next, I will return it to the moderator. That's exactly 10 minutes. You have explained some startup programs, to introduce tourism in North Minahasa as one of the super priority destination in Indonesia. So we have listened to all 5 panelists. I'm going to take this opportunity to ask the panelists one question. Before I read the questions from the participants.
Maybe we would like to ask you first, Pak Haryadi, you emphasize the main problem in tourism is the mobility, restricted mobility. We know that the biggest problem now happens in Java and Bali. It means that outside of Java and Bali, there's still opportunity, there's still room for people mobility that can maintain or recover tourism sector, although in smaller scale. One of them is in Likupang, North Minahasa. How do you see Likupang as one of the super priority tourism destination, considering that there is no strict mobility restriction in Likupang? So what are the efforts that can we do to survive in this time? For Lintas Arta, do you have any programs, digital tourism programs, especially in the new tourist destination? And maybe, Pak John, you can also explain about the local policy related tourism during the pandemic. Let's begin with you, Pak Haryadi. So for Likupang and other area that is considered as green zone, so they need to rely on the local or domestic tourists. If tourists coming from other parts of Indonesia, I think it's still a problem because the connectivity is still limited. And especially currently we have regulation that if you want to travel, then you need to have PCR tests. While we know that PCR test is expensive, around 800 or 900,000 rupiah per test. So if you rely on tourists from other parts of Indonesia, then it is still difficult. So if you want to rely to the domestic or local tourists, then I think it's still quite limited. So I think if we can conduct vaccination massively, especially in Java and Bali, it will create a great effect nationally all over Indonesia, especially in Java Island. We can support other areas in Indonesia. So we still have problems because they can only count on local mobility. They cannot rely on tourists from other zones, from the yellow or red zones. Pak Arya Damar, in regards to the potential of Likupang, you have presented about the benefit of ICT technology. How Lintas Arta see the potential of tourism in Likupang? Thank you. Yes, like what Pak Haryadi mentioned, but I think we still need to be optimistic. In Likupang, like what the head of Likupang district and Minister Sandi has said, Likupang is not considered as frontier area or disadvantaged area. So the communication over there is not a problem. So what I think that we need now is the local government needs to promote their area as tourist destination. But again, for now, they can only rely on local tourists. But with the available internet access, they need to prepare all of this. So, for example, the government can organize virtual tour to show what Likupang can offer in the future. So this can be a preparation while we wait for the pandemic to end. And you can also prepare some applications before the tourist comes. They can go to virtual tour. You can provide information about Likupang and so on. You can prepare those information now. Secondly, after the tourist comes to Likupang, what kind of digital technology that you can provide? For example, for digital payment, digital in regards to the environment. And the tourist needs to know the location of tourist attraction in Likupang, how they can reach there. If you can digitalize this and you can provide this through application, I think it can help the tourists when they visit Likupang after the pandemic. Then it will accelerate economic growth in Likupang. So I think now is the time for us to prepare ourselves and to learn how to prepare all of this. And second, after the tourists go to your area, to your tourist destination, you need to make sure that they will be satisfied. The local government needs to learn how they can gather information, gather data, collect data, whether the tourists are satisfied or not satisfied. We have applications that use big data and also utilize media analytics, such as the one available in Facebook. So what the people perspective about Likupang, Pemalang. So all of these technology are available now. So the government, the local government can learn what people like, what people are satisfied for, and what they are not satisfied for in their respective area. And you can also collaborate with the local universities to create these applications. So that, like what Minister Sandi said, we can only make use of creative economy, not only for tourism, but also to boost our economy. So this is the time for us to do marketing, some marketing, and to prepare the infrastructure. Now we will go to Pak John Ganda. So for the mobility of people in areas that is not considered as red zones, how can you utilize the mobility of people, although limitedly? Yes, our biggest problem in North Minahasa district is the visit from tourists from outside of our province. If we only rely on our local people, then the number is too small. North Sulawesi was a major tourist attraction in Indonesia and also internationally. So when we determine or assign Likupang as the super tourist destination, it is based on the past experience. So currently, like what Pak Arya said, we need to activate our promotional efforts using social media or by collaborating with the media. For example, in Bulletin Garuda, we also attract film producers to shoot their movies in our area, so that after we gone through the pandemic and after the people can move as before, then they will have a more knowledge about what Likupang can offer, what they can see, what they can experience in Likupang, so that they will choose Likupang as one of their traveling destination. Okay, thank you. Before I would like to see the questions from the audience, I have one question from Pemalang District Head. Pemalang can be said that we do not really hear about Pemalang as tourist destination. So how can you bring up your area, Pemalang? How can you promote Pemalang? Of course, you will need investment and cost for this. So how big is the interest of the investors in tourism sector in Pemalang? Actually, it's quite high. The investor has a quite high interest to invest in the tourism sector in Pemalang. So through this Investor Daily Summit, hopefully more investors can know about our area so that they can invest in Pemalang. So the problem that you face currently is because the investors is not really understand or know about the strength or what Pemalang can offer. And many people still think that Pemalang and Malang is the same. So we need to promote our area more massively. That Pemalang is a district in Central Java, not a city in East Java. Okay, thank you. I will read the first question from the audience, Bella Ananda Putri. If I read the question, I think this question is for Pak Haryadi. The question is it possible for Indonesia to be like the US, who do not impose a total lockdown because she is a staff in a hotel that really affected by the lockdown? Pak Haryadi, by seeing the map of the COVID-19 risk, can you answer this question? And Pak John Ganda, Pak Mukti, as the head of the regional government, is it possible to save the tourism by looking at the map risk in your respective region? I think it is very possible. If the US can do this, then we can do this because we have similar size of population. If they can do it, then we can do it. The problem is it depends on our focus, on our priority. I think we have not given a greater focus on vaccination. Why did I say this? For gotong royong vaccines or vaccines paid by the corporates or the companies, the initial objective is to help the government so that the companies that can pay for the vaccines for their employees can help the government. especially to save their production, especially productions that have high value. But the reality is, up to now, only around 480,000 vaccines is given through the paid vaccine scheme. So based on the data from the Health Ministry, we have seen that only around 7% of our population already received the second dose of vaccine. This is very slow. If we will pay more expensive if we cannot manage this pandemic using vaccination. That is what we learned from the US. I cannot speak a lot about China because they are quite close, but their economic has bounced to 18%. And from the European Cup, yes, there is new clusters due to the European Cup, but the number is not as high as we imagined. Italy used to have a very bad condition, bad COVID-19 condition, but they have recovered also. So we can do this if we have the intention and if we use high efficacy vaccines. And currently, after 6 months, we need to learn about how to have herd immunity from the vaccination. For example, in the US, they can provide 3.4 million doses a day. So it depends on our intention, but in my opinion, if we don't do this quickly, we will pay a more expensive cost. So you think that the main game changer for tourism sector is vaccination. There is no other strategy for the government of Indonesia to manage COVID-19 besides using vaccination, massive vaccination. Thank you. Pak John Ganda, what do you think as a head of North Minahasa district and considering the risk profile in your region to manage this problem? I agree with Pak Haryadi, the key is in vaccination. If the vaccination in our area already reached 70 to 80%, then we are ready to accept tourists, including foreign tourists. I heard that we will open flight Scoot Air from Singapore to Minahasa or to Manado. Our population is not that big, so if we can conduct massive vaccination, then we will far more ready to receive incoming tourists, local and also global tourists. Pak Mukti, thank you. Pak Mukti, how can you respond to this question as head of Pemalang district? Pak Haryadi and Pak John has mentioned about the relaxation of the regulation of the restriction. We know that if we want to boost tourism, we need relaxation of this restriction. But the people, the public also needs to increase their awareness for the health protocols. I agree that we need massive vaccination. We need to improve or increase the speed of our vaccination so that we can control the COVID-19 pandemic. We hope that the pandemic can turn into endemic in the short time. Thank you, Pak Mukti. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been 2 hours since we began the first session this morning. The theme is stimulating tourism to build the regional economy. So that is what happened in Indonesian tourism sector due to the pandemic. The key to recover and to rebound the tourism sector is how we can manage the pandemic. The game changer is the vaccination so that people can move, can mobilize again to recover the tourism sector in Indonesia. Thank you to all speakers, resource person. First, thank you the Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy, Sandiaga Uno. Thank you Haryadi Sukamdhani, Chairman of Indonesian Hotel and Restaurant Association. Thank you Pak Bima Arya Sugiarto, Mayor of Bogor. Thank you Pak Mukti Agung Wibowo, Region of Malang. Thank you Mr. John Ganda, Region of North Minahasa. And thank you pada Arya Damar, President Director of Lintas Arta. Thank you for your insights. And I would like to invite our audience to fill in the questionnaire that we have prepared. The questionnaire is from Lintas Arta. The first 5 people who fill in the questionnaire will receive a 1 million gift from Lintas Arta in the form of e-wallet. You can see the link in your screen. So that's the end of our first panel discussion. Thank you for your attention. Let's meet again on the second session with the theme or pandemic, the momentum for investment in the health sector. The speakers will be V. Jongtius, President Director of PT Kalbe Pharma, Arif Pramohanto, President Director of Indofarma, Bingar Egidius Sitomarang, President Director of Mustika Ratu, Agung Satya Wiguna, Director of Enterprise Sales, PT Linknet, Jonathan Sudarta, CEO and co-founder of Halodoc, and Dr. Anda Togi Jonis Hutajulu, Director of Drugs Production Supervision of the Indonesian FDA. Thank you for your participation and attention. Good afternoon.